Welcome to Political Perspective. If you are not political, you do not have a perspective. So I want to start this week a little different. I know we had some complaints about our segment, me and B's segment, about really us not having an unbiased opinion of some of these political stories, some of these news stories that they are, um, that they lean kind of away from Trump. And I think a part of it is just that Trump is kind of ridiculous in how he's governing the country. But in an effort to maybe bring just a little bit of balance. I mean, like I said, we're not journalists. We don't have to be unbiased. We don't have to just tell a story. We're going to tell a story from our perspective and how we feel about it. But I did want to kind of use a small portion of what we're doing to kind of put some topics out there for people to look at, research that they might be interested in, and then we'll have a couple of topics that we'll kind of dive into a little more specific. So one of them is, Donald Trump has kind of started this crusade of changing some of the information that is presented in the Smithsonian Institute, which is a museum. And the Smithsonian has, some African American exhibits, but it's really the biggest kind of museum. I think it's like 3 or 4 stories that really kind of tells the story of the United States, how it was founded,
Mhm.
and it gives a lot of information. But Donald Trump believes that the institute is too woke, and he kind of specifically talked about the institute having too much of a focus on slavery and too much of a focus on um, the ideals and what happened involving slavery, and he wants to kind of remove some of the slavery portion
Yeah.
to only highlight some of the best moments that the United States has had to offer to the world, and not really acknowledge any of the worst moments that the United States have offered to the world. So if you guys have any interest in that, it's a lot of stories about Trump and his power to be able to control a lot of institutes with funding. I don't know if B, you wanted to comment on that.
I just have one
But
comment. I saw this, and the only comment I have about it is, we spending a lot of money as a country and increasing the deficit. And it's like, you want to do all this, but the fix is you got to reparations. Like, I feel like that would go a long way into all this. Oh, we want to erase how bad the country actually was. We want to move the focus off of how bad things were and focus on how great the country is. Well, you can't do that without us and people who look like us and some who are allies voicing, yo, you can't do that. Reparations, repair it, fix it. It's really that simple.
yeah, and in my opinion, that is the way. If you sincerely want to correct, repair the bad moments that the United States has inflicted upon its citizens,
Yeah.
then this is after slavery. The pain and the turmoil that the federal government and the government in general inflicted upon its citizens. Um, if you're not willing to even have a conversation about repairing that, and you say things like, no one alive is owned slaves, and not really acknowledging the lingering effects of what
Right.
happened after slavery. We're never going to really have any real stable footing in this United States in terms of like race relations, and you can't ignore it. And that's what it looks like Trump and his folks are trying to ignore it, trying to push it to the side, trying to forget about it. But what I think is somewhat ironic is historical events like the Holocaust. Um, we say that we never forget,
We won't never
or
forget, right?
or historical events like 9/11. That is the actual the catchphrase for 9/11
Yeah.
is we will never forget. And we honor those people every year. And unfortunately, when it comes to Black people, though that honor has never really been given to us. It's been when it has been, it's been through clenched teeth. It's been forced upon.
Yeah.
It's never been an embrace. And we're talking about 60 years ago, 70 years ago, the civil rights movement. But yeah, I mean, you guys check out the Smithsonian Institute and some of the changes that Trump want to make there, and let us know what you guys think about that. Another one is Trump wants to end mail-in ballots. So Trump, going back to 2020, has this idea, and it's ironic that he brought this up after speaking with the Russian president Vladimir Putin about Russia doesn't have any mail-in ballots, but we all know Russia is a dictatorship, so they don't even really have legitimate elections. But Trump wants to stop mail-in ballots, which he thinks that there's a lot of fraud in mail-in ballots. So he thinks that we should only be able to vote, same day. And what people don't really realize, so there's a lot of kind of caveats to that. So like people who this would affect, like people who are overseas, people who are in the military.
Yeah.
They all have mail-in ballots. People who have recently moved, people who
Hmm.
are elderly, people who are disabled.
Hmm.
All these people utilize the mail-in ballot process. Um, and what's ironic is before the 2020 election, the Republicans were much more likely to use mail-in ballots than the Democrats. And it's actually one of the reasons why Trump lost in 2020 is because he was so adamant about Republicans not using the mail-in ballot
Right.
process, and so
Right.
many of them were not able to vote. But he wants to eliminate mail-in ballots, which should be in theory very very difficult because each individual state, they control how their election is counted, how their election is distributed. They Each individual state has their process, and the federal government does not have the ability to interfere in how states conduct their elections. However, in the world of Donald Trump, who knows? Trump has had the ability to be able to really circumvent a lot of the norms and a lot of the laws that states and this country have had for years. He's been able to kind of bypass that. So look out for that. There should be some more conversation about whether or not mail-in ballots will actually still be something that we can utilize. Um, but oh yeah, the last thing I wanted to add just too about the whole voting process. The reason why something like mail-in ballots could affect Black people, Black and Brown people even more is because our populations are so dense and so concentrated in cities. A lot of times we don't, these states, especially like these red states, they purposefully don't have the proper infrastructure to have enough voting places, enough voting booths to be able to actually make voting accessible for people. So that's why you'll see lines. We see it all the time on TV. You're going to see lines out the door, and that is a discouragement for people who are living in dense areas in cities, as opposed to in more rural areas where there are less people. It gives the ability to be able to kind of take away people in cities' ability to vote. I mean, most people, unfortunately, they vote out of some obligation that they feel like to vote. But if there are
Hmm.
barriers to voting, people are just not going to vote.
Hello. Right.
You pull up to your polling station, and it's a 5 hour wait. Most people are going to say, I don't have time for it. And I think that if you know the difference between the Republicans and the Democrats is Republicans are more about restricting voting. Democrats are more about making sure that people have across the board the best opportunity to vote. But one thing that I say is if we were really serious about people being able to vote, we would make election day a holiday. Like, why do people
That's
have
a
to go to
fact.
work
Right.
on election day? And what's kind of crazy is, like, even at my job, I have to give my staff, like, if they're working, I have to give them, like, the ability to go vote if they want to, right?
Yeah.
While they're working. Why is it not a holiday? We
It
got a
should
whole
be.
bunch of holidays that we can chalk. This is something that is important. But once again, it creates an environment where the less people vote, we know that it statistically affects Black and brown people more.
Yeah.
So stay tuned with that. That's a big thing. We'll see where that lands. Next thing I want to talk about real quick is just the military takeover of Washington D.C. So Trump
Yeah.
has ordered the National Guard, in addition to the FBI, all of the alphabet soup of law enforcement that the government has, have all converged on to Washington D.C. in an effort to what they call eliminate some of the crime that they believe is happening in Washington D.C. What's interesting about this is uh, Donald Trump has the ability as president to mobilize the National Guard and send them anywhere. All he has
Mm-hmm.
to do is just declare whatever that particular area is, declare it an emergency zone, and he has the ability to send the National Guard there. He has even more power in the District of Columbia to be able to not just mobilize the National Guard, but he has the ability to remove the police chief and take over the police department in DC also.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what's happening right now. There's a lot of protests that's going on in DC, from the residents who really feel like this has turned into just a police state. It's turned into what in history we've described as fascist, as
Mm-hmm.
similar to the Nazi Party, and it feels like the country is devolving into something that is a more up to date version of that. Um, but what's even more ironic is Washington D.C. is at a 30-year low in its crime statistics.
Right.
Which is amazing. You think about where the world was 30 years ago. That was in the middle of the drug epidemic, and crime is at a 30-year low. So there is no evidence of an emergency. However, um, the president doesn't have to operate with the same facts and um, the same the same what we would call um, undisputable information. Like, the president can just say whatever he wants, and it,
Mm-hmm.
it would just be that. But also, what's ironic is that I think there are at least three other governors of states that are sending their National Guard to Washington D.C. also, of Republican-led states. And in another kind of turn of irony, in the United States, 8 out of 10 states that have the highest crime are Republican states, and the two governors that are sending National Guard troops to Washington D.C., their states have higher crime rates than Washington D.C. So those types of numbers and those types of facts makes you kind of wonder, and realize why these things are being done, and why is it that Trump is sending the National Guard to cities that have Black mayors, that have
Yes, that's exactly what I was about
Black
to ask that.
female mayors.
Yeah.
Um, Considering there are other places that are much more dangerous, there are other places that have much more crime. Trump is mobilizing the National Guard in what appears to only be areas that did not vote for him.
Right.
So us living in Philly, us having a Black mayor, and us having a Black female mayor is definitely there's definitely
We on the
gonna
radar.
be a conversation about us being on that list.
Yeah, we definitely on the
Um,
radar.
yeah. What say you about that, big?
No, you took what I was about to say. I was about to say, yeah, I noticed that, and it's been reported that it's cities with black mayors and specifically black women mayors. I did see something earlier today. I didn't really look into it, but I saw that he himself, as in Trump 47, is going to be on the streets tomorrow, walking the streets with the National Guard. Uh, optic, photo optic, whatever, rally a fan base is goofy. All the things you put out there about it being the 30-year low as far as crime in DC is goofy. The videos you can easily find on social media of the interactions that the National Guard has been that they have been having with the citizens of Washington are goofy. It's beneath them, as one of the protesters pointed out. It's I don't even know what to make of it. It's I'm sure there's a larger um plan that is even more nefarious than what it already looks like. It's just a mess and I hate it all, but you know, we
Yeah.
we yeah, it's just a mess. I don't even know what to say. It's just a mess.
Yeah, I mean, it absolutely is a mess, and like you said, it's beneath our men and women in the military to
Right. They
be
didn't sign up for that.
right, but to also be in areas that are absolutely aren't as dangerous as they're being portrayed.
Right.
Earlier today, I saw an article, may have been yesterday, where the White House, I think Pete Hegseth, the secretary, um, he was at the train station giving out um, hamburgers to the National Guard members. Like they're soldiers. They're not there
Right.
to enforce law. Like, and what's interesting is like, you know, I think people need to kind of understand what's the impact to our communities because they're only being deployed in our communities.
Yeah.
So, we have to have tanks rolling down our streets. And what that does to the psyche of people, what that does to your connection to the country that we live in, the country that we pay taxes. Like we didn't pay taxes that had tanks rolling down our streets. Every, e-
No.
everybody wants safer neighborhoods. Everybody wants crime to be brought down, but a tank is not going to stop crime
No.
unless that tank is going to be there permanently.
Yeah.
Like the way you stop crime, and this is where the whole conversation about defunding the police and things of that nature is actually a legitimate conversation. Is you stop crime, by doing your best to educate and to eliminate poverty. Like crime and poverty go hand in hand. Crime
Absolutely.
and education, crime and having the ability to actually feed your family. Those things are ways that should deter crime. More police has never been a it's more police have never been a deterrent for crime. It's never been. Um, so that's all I got. B. I had a little bit about gerrymandering. That's some very very boring political talk.
No, we
But
got it covered. You got it
yeah,
covered. I just want to. Last thing I want to say about this is he's doing a lot to distract from this Epstein list. He's overkill on the Epstein distraction, boy. I tell you.
right. And they were supposed to release Epstein files today. No, it was yesterday, Wednesday, and they said they're going to be releasing some files on Friday. And with the amount of time that they've
Yeah.
had to sift through these files, do we even believe that these files are even V files? Like, I mean,
Right.
when you think about it, it's a joke. It's an absolute joke. And an easy way for anyone, easy way to know if these files are legitimate is if we see Trump's name somewhere. If we don't see Trump's name in there, we know it's
Yeah.
not even legitimate because the report says that his name is in the Epstein files over 200 times.
All,
So
yeah, all, yeah.
if it's not, if his name, if we cannot read his name in those files, then we already know it's not legit. And he can act like he wasn't cool with Epstein, and Trump is a bit of a idiot for this. I mean, because he's making this a story, because you can easily say I was friends with somebody and then I wasn't, but to
Yeah.
deny like you had any like friendship with this person, and it's record
Making it a
everywhere. Yeah, right. You're making
making
it
it a
more
Democratic hoax. Yeah.
right. When people can see with
Yeah.
their own eyes,
Yeah.
people see with their own eyes, and you're behaving like somebody that has something to hide. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's all I got. Like I said, if you are not political, then unfortunately for you, you do not have a perspective.
Thank you for watching this video. Please remember to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell.